welcome to the latest edition of Cruising with the Coaches, conversation with Julie and Lee. I'm Lee. It's wait, I always get that wrong. Julie, hey, it's February, so how's everything going in February for you? You know, can't
Okay.
believe I can't believe we're already 1 month into 2025, right?
Yes.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Like, how's the weather been? First of all,
I
like,
said
I'm
I
in.
can't believe it because January was like the longest month ever. It
It
felt like a
just
year all by
it,
itself.
it dragged on and on and on. But oh man, so yeah, we're trucking along. Glad y'all here with us on the show. Um, so quick question for you.
Yes.
Um, how's your memory? Like because I know you're a Gen Xer, like I am, and I'm just kind
Yes.
of worried about your memory. How does no? I'm kidding. That's a teaser for the topic. Yeah, that's it. That's
Yeah.
it. That's it.
I mean, memory is good, but I don't always. It's funny because I'm learning that I don't always remember things the same way everybody else does.
Well, I wonder, is your version like the true version, or is everyone else's version, skewed? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Oh, there's
hmm.
your perspective, their perspective, and what actually happened.
And what
So
actually happened is like somewhere here in the middle. Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Well, since we were teasing it, this is what this episode is about: why we remember what we remember, and it's an article from Rice University from one of their news articles, and I thought it was pretty interesting, right? And so it talks about how we've all like forgotten to lock the door, or well, I have a story about that, by the way. I'll share that in a second. But forgetting to lock the door, or you panic because you're driving and you're like, wait, did I turn the stove off? Did I lock the door? Whatever it is, right? And if this sounds familiar, folks, relax. You're not alone. So this study from that was published in Neurobiology of Learning and Memory from Rice University, psychologists found that certain experiences are better remembered by most people, while other experiences like locking the door are easily forgotten. So this just reminds me of a story when my daughter was young, and I don't know if I've shared it before on the show, um, but dads don't. Well, dads do hair, right? But it was a thing. Like I was always nervous, and thick hair. You know how that goes, right? So I would go. She and this before she was walking. I mean, she was like a baby, right? So taking her to daycare and all this stuff. I would get to the dresser, and she would already start crying. Like hadn't touched the hair yet. You know what I mean? We're getting to it, but she'd start crying already. It's like, oh my god, right? So long story short, the months and whatever pass, particular day that I do her hair, um, got the parts done and all that, a couple poof balls, whatever it was, and she didn't cry, like at all. Like it was fine, right? She was in the little bouncy chair, whatever. We're all good. So I'm like, oh man, this is a great day. So cool. Pack her up, leave the house, right? Well, guess what I did? Talk about forgetting things. Because you like when you leave the house, right? You always do the check. You're like keys, cell phone, whatever, right? Before you leave the house.
Right, right.
Well, the place we were in, the door automatically locked,
Okay.
and I left my keys, I left my wallet, and I left my phone.
All
I
inside when you walked out with her.
Absolutely,
Mm-mm,
absolutely,
mm-mm.
because like I was so excited that wait, this is the first time in however many months didn't cry at all, got the hair done. I was like on cloud nine. Walked out the house and I was like, ooh, okay, all right. So yeah, got her to daycare, had there was a school about a block away from our house. Crossing guard was there. I was like, "Can I borrow your phone?" And now again, right? Like, do you answer a number that's not like you don't know it, right? You don't
I
always answer
usually
that.
do, actually. Probably because of my
Ooh.
profession, though. I
Well,
actually do. Yeah,
well, okay,
yeah,
right. I get that, right? Because it
yeah.
could be some a different kind of call.
Right,
If you know it's personal, right? Or if that's not your business, a lot of people don't answer those kind of calls, right?
right.
So imagine my wife getting a phone call during the day from a number she doesn't know, and it's me.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I'm in a meeting. It's like, yeah, I left my keys and my wallet and my phone. Can you? Yeah. Now, I was willing to sit on the front steps until whatever, right?
Right, right.
So I had to take a taxi, came back, let me in. Um, yeah. I'll just leave it at that. The scowl was like,
But at
going back.
least you had enough to take a taxi, though. Did you have like, how were you able to take the
Oh,
taxi?
no, no, no. She took one
Oh,
from work. To,
she took the taxi. Okay, I got you. I got you. Okay.
I was within walking distance. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Mm-mm.
So just saying, the memory, like that, that's clearly I remember that situation from having, and we're talking. This has got to be 14, 15 years ago. You know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. But I don't know how. I've never forgotten that kind of stuff. Walked out the house without any of it. Mm. So I've never done that again. Just have wallet, keys, phone, wallet, keys, phone at the door. Wallet, keys, phone. Whew. Yeah.
Well, I will tell you, I recall um a time, and it was funny because now this is a whole group of people. Okay, so we're talking a
Okay. Okay.
classroom, and I
Mm.
believe we were in fourth grade. I think it was fourth grade,
Okay.
and it's one of those things where we got together, like, I don't know, it was either last summer or the summer before. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
20 years later.
Right.
Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, just a few years later. But it was one of those things where we talked about it. We're like, oh my God, that did happen, because we were like, none of us believed that it happened.
And
But
then
like,
everybody starts talking about it, and you're like,
yeah, they're like, that did happen. Oh my God, that's crazy. So, without giving any, like,
sure.
information, like, I'll give you the story without names,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
one of the
No
young men,
incrimination.
and yes, one of the boys in our class
Hmm.
was taken out of the classroom, and we didn't realize he was taken out. We were just all,
Yeah.
class
Everybody
of
doing their
maybe
own
20,
thing. Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
25,
Yeah.
30 kids. We're doing our thing, la da da da,
Yeah.
whatever. And the teacher was like, felt the need, to stop the class and said, hey, we have an announcement. We have a new student. And we were like, okay, blah, 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 yada, yada,
Hmm.
yada. And we're all looking, and the student comes in,
Hmm.
and it's the kid that was already in our classroom, but he had a complete name change.
Mm.
And we were all like, oh, okay. Like,
And everybody's like,
so we were to call him by this name
sure,
for
sure.
the remainder of whatever.
Hmm.
And we were all like, oh, okay. And so we all abided by it because that's what the teacher said. We were like, okay. So we just had that conversation like recently, like, do you guys remember when yada yada was blah, blah, blah? And
Right,
then
right.
teacher said, no, his name is this. And we were like,
And everybody
okay.
kind of confirmed that it actually did
Yeah, and we were like,
happen.
do you guys remember his name was actually this? And we were like, oh my God, yeah. Like, I thought that was a dream. Like, we
Right,
thought
right.
the years of his other name never happened. Like, we were like, did that really like, we thought we were in the Matrix or something. We were like, what was that? But I mean, it's actually a beautiful story. His grandparents adopted him, and they changed his name, and
Ah,
but like, they didn't
nice. Right.
tell we were
No, they
little
didn't go
kids.
into the
They
whole
didn't tell
story.
us all
Right, right.
that, you know.
They
But it
That's
was
not
just
your
like
business, but his name is
it's not
this.
your business, but he's a whole different kid, you know. And so it was just kind of like, but it's one of those things. You're a young
Yeah.
kid, and you're just kind of like, did that really happen? Like, was his name
Well,
the
see,
other name?
and that's that shared experience, right? Because if everybody,
Yes,
like if you're talking about, 20, 30 kids
yes.
in fourth grade,
But not all of us knew it. Remember it.
it, right, right. Because, and then how many people remember, and the way those who did remember it, it
Yes,
was like everybody had the same thing. So,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's
crazy. It's so crazy.
it's crazy what we remember, what we don't
And what
remember.
we don't.
I will never forget my wallet, keys, and phone. I guarantee that. Guarantee that.
Yeah.
So going back to this study here, um, excuse me, Fernanda Morales Calva and Stephanie Liao, they were the ones that came up with this study. So they said that us as humans, we tend to focus on remembering certain aspects within the experience, um, more than others, such as we remember the big picture, right, and not the details. So struggling to remember is one of the things that we all experience. But when it comes to understanding memory, this is how they're trying to discover how memory actually works. And their research, it's a new area of memory research that taps into why people remember certain things and why people don't. So, Morales Calva said that um, people looking back at last year, right, may recall different things, or like you were talking about, you guys talked about what you recalled in fourth grade. And I'm talking about what I recalled in not fourth grade. um, but, everyone can remember most of the details, but, a few of them stand out. So then, previous research had shown that memorable experiences for one person are likely memorable for another, like birthday parties or deaths of a loved one, different things like that. And they're often tied to positive and negative experiences. So this is the knowledge that they used to design um, the the research study for memory performance. Okay. So real quick, I'm gonna come back out here on camera, and like it cracks me up. Like we were sharing those stories about the student's name change and me forgetting the whole wallet, keys, and everything.
Mhm.
Now, it was a great experience at first because I did her hair without her crying, right? And like
Right, right.
I'm on cloud nine. I'm like, man, are you kidding? Like, but then I will never forget that experience because it turned into okay, something great that I will never forget because so it's just, and I remember the details. Like I can tell you, um, what she was wearing that day. I
Aw.
can tell you, like again, I mean, it's ingrained, right? I don't know how I forgot to. Walked out the door and closed it, and I was like, all my stuff's inside. Like, what are you supposed to do? You know what I mean? So, let's get back to this study, right? So the study is they evaluated the memory by showing pictures to the participants. Excuse me. So during the memory test, there were some images that were repeated and some that were brand new, and then others that were similar, but they were difficult to distinguish from one another. So before we get to what the study is, why don't we take a break and then come back and talk about the study, and then we get to share some more memorable stories as well.
But
Oh,
before we go
yeah,
to a
yeah,
break
go ahead.
though, I just want to, in the moment, like, so you were excited and you
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like forgot to, you know, lock the door and all that kind of good stuff, and I mean forgot to get your wallet and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But did you remember to tell your wife why you forgot?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, let's just say that really probably didn't matter in the moment. it was
Okay.
it was not met with, oh man, you cool. You know what? I'm gonna let you in because I get it, right? It was, yeah, no, it was not
Okay.
met
Maybe it was
with.
your delivery. You just, babe, the best thing just happened. You would not believe it. I know I'm calling
Right?
you from this phone number, but blah 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 blah. But the bad news is I need you to let me in because I don't have the keys, I don't have my wallet, and I don't have the phone. So
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if
yeah.
there's any good delivery with that ever.
You're wiser
Well,
now. That's you would know
oh
better now.
oh yeah, I would. I'd just stay locked out. Well, and this was also before COVID, right? So
Gotcha.
this was before a lot of hybrid work, remote work. Everybody's in office,
Yeah.
so meetings and all that. And I was like, hey, it's not an emergency, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
get it.
There
I
was
get it.
there was no win with that one.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
And never forgotten it again. Now, so I got to share this, and then we'll go to break. The only other time that, and this wasn't really forgetting keys, but I've never been one to lose keys, right?
Okay.
So this was like coming home from work, and it's 10:30, 11 o'clock, whatever it is, and I've gotten off the bus, so I've already left work, you know, gotten off the bus, walk home, and I'm searching my pockets, and I'm like, oh no, this can't be, right? I wear cargo pants a lot, so I've got multiple pockets and I got stuff everywhere. I dig in my backpack, all kind of stuff. I didn't forget them. I just lost them. I was like,
Gotcha.
oh man. So that's like almost that's not quite a memory thing, but that was another, I don't know, a memorable experience where I've never lost. Like, I'm always double checking my pockets now. You know what I'm saying? On the bus or on the train, I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, keys right there. I'll put them in a pocket that's zipped up, something like that, just so I know they're there, because I will never ever forget the. I don't even know what was fear. It was just like, I can't believe I don't have my keys, right?
Right. Just
Because
devastation. Yeah.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
Because then
Yeah.
I'm also thinking, all right,
Who's got my keys?
and, and, and needless to say, I changed the locks the next morning.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it.
Although it was raining, so I'm changing the locks to the front and the back door in the rain.
Mm,
But
mm-mm.
yeah, so I will never forget that either, right? But devastation, good word. On that note, we'll take a break and then come back and talk about the study that they did for how our memory actually performs and why we remember what we do. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back. Hey, folks, welcome back from the break. While y'all have been discussing during the break about my bad memory or just bad luck, what, however you want to call it, that's fine. But no, this is latest episode of Cruising with the Coaches, conversation with Julie and Lee, and this episode is why we remember what we remember. So before we took the break, we were talking about the study from Rice University, and they had created um, a study on how our performance, how our memory performs. So this is the second part of what they did with the study. So the images, you know what? I'll go back one slide just to read it again to recap. So the study involved showing pictures to the participants, and during this memory test, the images were repeated, and some were brand new, and some were similar images but difficult to distinguish from one another. And so the similar images were meant to interfere with the memory, kind of like our daily life, our daily experiences, remembering to lock the door or take your keys, that kind of thing. The memorable images were identified as ones the participants would most likely recall. So then, Calva or Morales Calva and Leal found that while participants correctly remembered the most memorable images, this effect actually wore off after 24 hours. And this was especially true when remembering positive experiences. Um, so the experiences, the more memorable it was, the more it was prone to be forgotten. And so they say while we feel like we know what types of experiences are memorable, we really don't know what features of a memory are remembered best in the long term. We often think emotional memories are better remembered, but in fact, it's just versus detailed trade offs. That's what exists when the central features of a memory are enhanced or while details might be forgotten. Excuse me. So that actually makes sense, right? Um, and in speaking of like the negative experience, I remember when my sister passed, right? And I mean, obviously, all kind of emotions and everything that day.
Sure.
I could not tell you now. Well, and I'll share it this way, right? My mom and I both experienced that, and she remembered everybody that was at the funeral, like
Mm,
everybody. Years later, she's like, "Yeah, so and so was here, so and so was there." I could not tell you to this day who was there. Couldn't tell you. Now, I mean, I remember, people giving their condolences or, and all that kind of stuff. I remember going through those motions, but I could not tell you any faces that were there.
okay.
Couldn't tell you. So, well, and I get that, right? So that's kind of what they're talking about here with the gist of the memory versus the actual details, right?
Hmm.
But I find it interesting that my mom and I experienced the same thing. Obviously, different attachment as child and sibling, but we also had different experiences or different memory performance from that experience. You know.
Well, I have to tell you, I mean, that's almost the same experience for me. So,
Mm-hmm.
with the death of the father of my children, my children's father,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
I remember everybody who was there.
Mm.
Same thing with my grandmother. I remember everybody who was there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when my brother passed away, I
Yeah.
couldn't tell you. I
Yeah.
couldn't tell you. So I don't know why. I don't know why that is very selective for me. Like I almost
Right.
can't even tell you. I struggle to tell you when it happened.
Right.
Like I almost can't remember the weather. I can't remember like was it
Sure.
summertime? I do remember school had just let out, so it must have been summertime. Like it's
Right.
just like really weird. It's like very selective for me as far as like what pieces and parts of it I
That you do
choose to
remember.
remember. Yeah,
Right.
like
Right. Well,
it's
so
weird.
even going back to the negative experience, right? I was just in this conversation with a cousin of mine the other day. I can recall in detail the actual night she passed, right?
Okay.
Like my sister. I can recall in detail because I was at work. So, got the phone call from my mom, like, hey, this is going on, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Um, I'm leaving work. Oh, you know what? Interesting. Because this was in this very conversation I had with my cousin.
Okay.
I had a memory lapse while I was driving, right?
Mm.
So I left, and this was back when I was working in Cleveland, right? So driving, I forget the actual hospital now. And of course, memory, right? But I'm driving, and I'm
It's like
like,
Metro.
no, I was going
Oh.
back to like in right outside of Avon. Oh, gosh, it was in Lorraine. I forget which hospital it was.
Oh.
Um,
Mercy.
yes, that's
Okay.
what it was.
Yeah.
But right, like hit I-90, right? Like
Yeah.
you know how to get there.
Yeah.
I well, wait, that's for us local folks.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, but again,
What? Huh?
I made that trip several times, right? It
Sure.
wasn't like I didn't know how to get there. Left Cleveland, left the station, and all of a sudden, I have no idea where I'm going. Right now, then I'm looking at my gas tank, and I'm like, "Ooh, I'm about to run out of gas." So I literally had to call my dad, and I'm like, "You got to talk me how to get there because I have no idea where I'm going." Like, but yet I can recall these details, right?
Right. Right.
And then get to the hospital, so I can tell those details 100%, but cannot, like I said, for the life of me, tell you who was at the funeral. You know, can't
Yeah.
remember, but the details of that night specifically. I mean, and I could tell you more details too. Like remember when I got there, I know who was there. I even know like when I went in to see, you know, the bot, all that. Like I can
Yeah.
tell you those details like it was yesterday.
Yes. Well, because you won't
So
forget that. Yeah.
yeah, no, not
Yeah.
a, but having that memory lapse in driving there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's so it is interesting how your memory will remember the big picture, right? The gist of okay, this happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder, and I would guess I'm not a psychologist, but I play one on TV. No, but like I would imagine like a negative experience. There's details you may not remember because that's your brain protecting you from trauma. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So while it's tucked away, it's not going to recall those details because they're too painful. You know what I mean? Um, but I wonder why the brain wouldn't do that with a positive experience. You know what I mean?
Right. Like,
That's
hey, like we know you're having a shitty day. Let's give you this wonderful thing. Do you remember this? Do you remember this when this happened? Wasn't that great? Like,
right,
can we
right,
get more of that? Because that would be nice.
and give you the oh, because I forget what show it was. We were talking about Inside Out. Remember the Inside Out, the Inside
Yes.
Out.
Yes. The anger
So
is sitting there like
let's
all
bring up a
pissed
good
off.
core memory. Let's
Yes, core
substitute that one
memories.
in.
Let's give us some more core memories. No, because I'll tell you when with Jay, because I had to go and because he was on life support. And
Mm-hmm.
so the morning where we knew,
Mm,
what we were going to do,
sure.
I pulled in the parking lot and,
Mm-hmm.
still, I still struggle with this because,
I'm sure.
ever signing papers and that's just, ugh.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
pulling into that parking garage, I hit a car. Like I, I, I sideswiped the car.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
are you freaking kidding me?
Of
So
of all times, right
yes,
now.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So I did the proper thing. I left the phone number and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, whatever, like, please call me. And I put it
Mm-hmm.
on the windshield.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously with everything else that I was dealing with that day and what have you,
Yeah.
um, I forgot about it. Like I wasn't even thinking about it, and then I
Fair.
came
Fair.
out and still wasn't thinking about it because the
Yeah.
the car wasn't
Cover's
there, or,
gone or.
there was
Mm,
nothing on my car. So again, I wasn't thinking about it or whatever.
mm,
And then this is actually, it turns out to be a positive story because then, like, maybe like 2 3 years 2 3 years 2 2 or 3 days later,
Hmm.
beautiful text comes through, and this person is,
Oh wow.
and again, I won't say his name, but he was just like, look, we were probably there both for bad reasons, and
Hmm.
it's just a beautiful thing that you would even take the time to leave your information and what have you. And
Absolutely.
do you know, we still text each other, just, hey, how are you, what's going
Yeah.
on,
It's
been thinking about you, what have you. And it's just
totally.
kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
oh.
Well,
And it's
well,
just
that's
beautiful.
a positive memory that
Yes,
with details that came out of a memory that you don't want to think about. You know what I mean?
exactly, exactly. But I'll tell you, I did not remember hitting his car for like a long time. And then all of a sudden he came out of it, and I'm thinking, oh crap. Like, oh,
So
I
you
did
forgot
do
how to
that.
drive temporarily. Yeah.
Yes, dude,
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
never forget that. I hit the car. It was like with the keys. Like, I hit it and I went, damn. Like, oh, because it was like, I was
Yeah.
looking at it as like, now this is time I have to write this note where I'm sitting here
Right.
trying to go
But
into the hospital, you know.
there's something else that I got to do. That's
Exactly.
that's a time constraint for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, he was super beautiful about it. Like, you talk
That's
about a wonderful wonderful soul. I mean, he's
well.
definitely
It's
a
it's
good
it's
human
stuff
being.
like that that puts um our faith. Well, I'll speak for my. I can't speak for you, but like our faith back in humanity. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
facts,
Yeah,
facts.
because
Yeah.
I mean, there's always chaos going on in some form or fashion, but
Yes.
at the end of the day, it's stuff like that that makes me
Yes.
know that okay, there's good people
There
still.
are still good people out there.
Yeah,
There really are.
absolutely. I mean, two of them here, on the but
We try. We try.
oh, I think there's some more to the study. Let me go
Yes.
back to the study. Sorry about
Yes.
that. So this is so again, if you're one of the people who can't remember what you did 5 minutes ago, or if you took your pills or anything like that, they said that you are not alone. This is, I think, how they've started to really say why our how our brains work. Um, they can't remember everything, right? And can't remember every experience. So there is selective forgetting, or at least selective forgetting about the information, right? That isn't important. And the study that they did really helps them get closer to understanding why we remember things. So Morales, Calvin, Liao said that they hope their findings offer new insights into why some things are memorable and why they're not. And I think they need to just watch this episode because I think we already touched on why things are memorable and why they're not.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting where because now I'm trying to think of like positive memories, right? And okay, well, how many details do you remember from that? And I'm like, oh, not many. It's like you win again. Well, I do have. I'll share this. Um, and this was back in high school. I was quite the basketball player. No, kid. I mean, I played ball in high school. I I knew you'd get a kick out of that
And I was like, huh?
one. But I did have. There was a game where I actually did have some winning plays. Right, like crunch time. Game is going back and forth, and we're running the offense. Blah blah blah. But I made some crucial shots, made two free throws. So the like the movie type stuff, right? Where there's seconds on the clock and you're at the foul line and it's like dead silent, right? That kind of thing. I
Hmm.
actually had a game like that where I made the free throws,
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I could remember those details and I was just in high school a couple years ago. So it's not like it's that far away. But I remember the details of probably the last 5 minutes of that game, right? Um, Even getting into an argument with teammates because somebody wasn't rebounding like they should, that kind of thing, right?
Okay.
but I got those details, and so I did. It's interesting. Like, okay, that's a positive thing, right? And I got those
Right.
details.
Okay.
Now, there are some games I couldn't tell you if I even played or not. Like, I, I probably did, but I mean, all right, cool, yeah, all right. Who did we play? What was the score? Yeah, wait. I
Right.
mean, I don't know, but that particular game, I can tell you all the details. You know, so it's just interesting how we remember. I don't think it depends if it's positive or negative. You know,
You don't
because
think it depends, or you do
I
think it?
don't. No,
Oh,
I don't think it does. Because like we've talked about negative experiences where we
okay.
remember certain details, right? But we also talked about negative experiences where we can't remember a thing other than that thing happened, right? We can't remember the
Okay.
details. But I also like, can you think of a positive experience where you're like, oh, I can't tell you the details. You know what I mean? But you know what happened, right? Oh.
Yeah. No, I just remember things differently.
Hmm.
Like,
That's kind of
I,
cool. Like if you
yeah,
can remember details of all the positive things, that's really
I
cool.
always see the positive spin on things. I
Yeah.
never really, like, someone will say something. I'm like, well, I really didn't see it that way. I saw this, like, oh, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to be like a Pollyanna by any means, but like, I don't really tend to look at it negatively. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's always just kind of like, unless you give me a reason to think of it negative. But like for the most part, I don't think of it negatively unless someone starts to say it negatively.
Mm.
Do you
I
see what I'm
so I
saying?
absolutely. So maybe that has something to do with it too, right?
Yeah.
The maybe the environment or whoever's around, and if no one's giving, like I
Like
don't know
the
how to
tone
say
of
it.
to which
Yeah.
it's being delivered. Like, oh my God, do you remember that one time? And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh my God, yeah, and it was, and then they're like, no, no, that's not what happened. It was this. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
like I thought it was this, and it's just like, oh, okay.
And I
Like,
wonder if it's people's perspective at that time too,
yeah, yeah,
how they choose to remember it, and then those details fade. Well, or I guess like the study said, it's selective forgetting. So if those
yeah.
details are not important, you're not going to remember.
I'm
You know,
like,
you're like, no, it was important. I promise it
yeah.
was.
I'm like, whatever.
Well, any last thoughts about memory before we wrap today's episode up?
Not not that I can recall.
I promise I didn't pay her to say that. I didn't pay her. You guys can find us on Spotify. Um, that's where we also have video episodes on Spotify, not just audio. And you can find us on YouTube. That's where the home of Cruising with the Coaches is. And yeah, we have loved this another episode of Cruising with the Coaches with you. And I mean, just try to remember your phone, your keys, your wallet, and well, no, not everybody takes a mask out the door, but I still have one in my pocket just in case on
Do you
public
really? Okay.
public transportation, man.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Mm,
I
hmm.
understand that. Yeah.
Well, until next time, Lee and Julie signing off.